Next, we have an opportunity to take stock of the big picture of what the Chinese are up to with one of the great thinkers about these subjects and essayists and authors of our time, Mark Helprin. Please welcome him here. Thank you, Mark.
I'll just get right to it because of the time limitation. The United States has neither a legitimate interest in stopping the rise of China, nor can we do so. However, we do have a crucial interest in preventing the hegemony to which China has always felt entitled, so as to keep the world free from China's style of governance, which, if unopposed, it will force or encourage, as Britain once did, and as we have done, but in our case, according to Republican rather than totalitarian principles. Among other things, a world subject to China's hegemony will suffer continual warfare as nations and peoples attempt to escape the smothering restrictions, the model of which we have seen in Mao's China and see now in a nightmarish technological iteration. To block Chinese hegemony and avoid open warfare, we have only one course of action, which is carefully to develop and concentrate upon our own strengths, so as to deter China militarily and rise to its economic and geostrategic challenges throughout the world. This requires operating in three major domains: defense, the economy, and the repair of our own faltering civilization. Though these are of equal importance, they must be considered in light of time. Our politics and culture are in decline, but we may have sufficient residual capital so as to bumble on for decades. Our often limping economy has great natural strength and, if liberated, will long retain its formidable potential. But defense is subject to bolts from the blue, and the military domain is what provides protection, space, and time in which the other domains can be put in order. Therefore, it must be put in order first. No deal will ever correct our own deficiencies. And the one paramount deal to be sought, bringing China into a nuclear arms control regime, we mysteriously do not seek. China can accomplish its first war aims to clear the Western Pacific of American power by eliminating our vulnerable bases there, none of which has sufficiently hardened aircraft and store shelters, air and missile defenses sufficient to defeat saturation attacks, protection against special forces, or capacity for repair. Without these bases, we will be defeated. Though our air and sea lift are inadequate to a European war, the distance across the Pacific is twice that across the Atlantic. By spiking the Panama Canal, which we abandoned and China took on, and blocking the southern capes with nuclear attack submarines, China would have to fight only 60% of our fleets. All this without striking the U.S. homeland, while bases in China are sheltered for fear of nuclear escalation. Just as we have not hardened our Western Pacific bases, we have catastrophically truncated the development of long-range air power. The Navy, half the size of the Reagan Navy, states now that to shift resources to weapon systems, it will further curtail its unprepossessing shipbuilding program. This would be the best policy only if the nation had to choose between platforms and payloads. Which brings me to my last and most important point. It does not. The military dutifully bends to this stricture, but politicians and the people need not. It is foolish, cowardly, and in the long term not survivable to accept that provisioning our defense is secondary to assuring our comfort. History teaches emphatically that if we are not faithful to the former, the latter will vanish entirely. In the peacetime years between 1940 and 2000, defense expenditure averaged 5.7% of GDP. And today, just as in the feckless Obama administration, it is 3%, $3 per 100. One does not have to be Winston Churchill to see the heartbreak and tragedy to which this will lead. We sleep as a nation because we betray our ancient character. Of all things, this need not be so.